GM Starknet friends, in video I will show you how you can deploy your own Starknet nodes, both mainnet and girly, production grade on main cloud providers, namely AWS, Microsoft Azure, and GCP. So I'll just follow this tutorial I've written, which is available on my RAW. For the sake of this video, I will follow this tutorial right from VS Code so that we have both the text and the terminal, and you can follow the commands directly and more easily. So let's start with AWS. Each section has sort of a TLDR copy-paste code block. So I will not go through all the details in this video, but just run the command with you to show that it works actually without any demo effect, hopefully. So let's go with AWS. So here I have created and generated credentials for a user to configure the CLI, what I'm doing right now. The access key, the JSON file, is dumped at the root where you execute the command. These credentials are deleted at the end of the video, so don't think that I'm leaking something, hopefully. And then, so we rely on the Docker ECS integration to deploy a cloud formation stack to AWS. So this boils down mainly to running Docker Compose up. So you need to have Docker Compose on your local machine. And let's go. Use an existing AWS profile. Use the one we just created. And so it's on. So it can take a bit of time. So while this cloud formation stack is starting, I will just create a new terminal and jump directly to the GCP deployment. So for GCP to work, you need to have a Google Cloud project. So I have already created one. So I won't use these 3 steps, but if you don't have a project or if you want to create a new one for this task, you can just execute this command. So first, we need to create a cluster. So for the project called Starknet node. And then we use GKE, so Google Kubernetes Engine, to run the container. So it should be enough. So the configuration is being done. So while all these nodes are starting, basically the nodes are just the plain Pathfinder image. I've just added here the curl tool, which wasn't available, because we actually have a S3 bucket with a backup for the SQLite databases used both by a girly node and the mainnet one. So there is a daily backup at approximately 2 a.m. UTC plus 2. Don't really need to think about this, but just so that you know that, especially for the girly nodes, it can take some time to download this backup before starting. And this is especially interesting, or especially worth knowing this for AWS, because there is a health check policy that one needs to update, otherwise the girly node does not start. And it will be probably the same for the mainnet node one day, while at the time of recording this video, it's not necessary to run this for the mainnet node. So I'll just wait for the stack to be completely created, and then I will run this update service. So we update the health check grace period to be 3000 seconds, because we expect that the backup is even bigger than 100 gigabyte, and with a download speed of say 33 megabytes per second. It should be enough to wait for 3000 seconds before making the health check. So here I'm also using JQ quite a lot to pass some values returned by the AWS CLI. So if you're not familiar with it, or if you don't have it or have not installed it, you can just install it or copy paste the results, splitting the commands. So if we go to the cloud formation page on the AWS console, we see here that we have our stack with status create in progress, the different resources used by the stack. So we have the main cluster here, some routes, some access points for the file systems, logs group, and route table, networks, and stuff. You may want to edit a bit this information depending on your setting and depending if you have also a backend that you deploy to AWS. You may want to merge all the two stacks. So here the events, everything is going quite smoothly. Create complete. So then, because I know it's necessary, I will just update the health check grace period for Girly. Okay, so we should be done for deployment of the nodes on AWS. However, the backup might not be downloaded directly, can take a bit of time as I told. So we see here that we have the services, mainnet and Girly. So if I go to the first services, we can see the logs here. These are typically curl outputs, so the node might not be started yet. We need to wait a bit for this to work. Use the new experience here. Logs. Okay. So here we can see as well for the GKE that the nodes here are running. You can have the logs as well. Okay. So back to the terminal. For AWS, we can request the node to see how does it work. So if we do docker compose ps, we'll see here the nodes running, and then we can check that it's running well using curl, for instance, to request the chain ID function. So here it means that the backup is not downloaded yet. I'll open a new terminal to run the Azure setup. So for Azure, it starts with docker login Azure. And then if we have the CLI installed, I can create a new resource group that will handle all the resources developed, created by Docker Compose. So somehow the same story, we use the SCI integration and So we just run this command. We use the resource group we just created before. So here you have the nodes. It's also interesting to see that you can connect directly from GCP. Here we have some more information for the clusters. Hmm. Okay, I don't know what happened exactly for Azure. Just rerunning the command. So here we see that for AWS, the mainnet node is up because we received here the SN main, Starknet main, response to the Starknet chain ID. And if we query the girly node, it's SN girly. So it's all good for AWS. I can go to the cleaning section yet. It's also a bit long, so I'm moving to Google GCP now. So let's check the GCP nodes. So here, if we run get services, we see normally that we have the two nodes with external IP. So same story, we can request the Starknet chain ID. We have here the girly one. We have here the mainnet one, so it's up. Last, the Azure integration. So Azure is here, the story. So if we use Docker PS, for AWS it's Docker Compose PS, but for Azure it's just Docker PS. So there is something a bit if you run all these deployment script in the meantime, you have to switch between all the context. Anyway, so these are the containers that we have with the command that we run, and we can now curl the Docker to see if it's OK. So apparently the girly Docker is not yet ready, and the mainnet one neither. Here we do have the right IP, so let's check Azure. Okay, this is our resource group. We have here the storage for the file system and the container instances. We have here our 2 containers that are running. So you can see the logs. These are also the curl logs. So it should come up at some point. We can wait a bit. Or we can also connect using SSH to the container. So here you see that we are downloading the mainnet database. The mainnet database, which is actually 3.6, while here we are at 3.3. So yes, it's increasing. So mainnet node should be ready somehow quite soon. You can check this again. Not yet. So we see here everything. SN main. So we have the main nodes up. And let's see. So girly is not yet ready. So my mind about all this integration is that the Azure one is not as smooth and as interesting as GCP or AWS. I mean, I'm more familiar with AWS, but I think the tooling is quite impressive. While GCP using GKE is really smooth and also easy to manage. So I would not go for Azure apart from if you have, I would say, credentials, free money. So anyway, I will stop the video now because it might be quite long. But so here it is. We have deployed, and now I need to clean everything for Google. Details tree, troubleshooting cleaning. I don't delete my project. And yes, hopefully you will be able to run your own node. And please, if you have any comments or feedback, questions, feel free to ask them directly in the comments or Twitter or Discord. Thanks.